Okay, for this lesson, we're going to just be talking about dividing fractions. And dividing fractions is a pretty easy thing to do because we're going to do something common of what you know to do. So our fraction for today is 2/3 divided by 4/5. So the first thing we have to do is we're going to rewrite the problem to solve. Now, when we divide fractions, it is the same as multiplying a fraction by its reciprocal. So the word we're going to learn today is called reciprocal. Whoops, So what is a reciprocal? So a reciprocal is a fraction where the numerator and the denominator have flipped places. So for example, the reciprocal 1/2, if we flip the numerator and the denominator for 1/2, we would now make the 2 the numerator and the denominator would be 1. So that's going to be what we call the reciprocal. So here's how to divide fractions. What you're going to do is there's a catchy phrase to remember when you do division with fractions. And the phrase is called keep, change, flip. So what does that mean? Well, the keep means I'm going to keep the first fraction the same. So we're going to keep the first fraction the same. So if I look here at my problem, I see that I have 2/3 as my first fraction. So I'm going to just rewrite the 2/3 like that. The second thing is to change. So I'm going to change the division sign to a multiplication. So I'm going to change our sign to a multiplication sign. So this division sign now becomes a multiplication sign, which is nice because we all know how to multiply fractions. And the third thing we're going to do is flip. We're going to flip the numerator with the denominator, which remember is called the reciprocal. So my next second fraction is 4/5. So if I flip those, my new numerator is now going to be 5. And my new denominator is going to be 4. I took the 4/5 and I flipped it. Okay? Now I'm going to just multiply the fractions as usual. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply. 2 times 5 is 10. 3 times 4 is 12. And then at the very bottom, I say reduce if necessary, pretty please, because we keep forgetting to do this. So I'm looking at my 2 fractions. I can divide both of those by 2. So 10 divided by 2 is 5. 12 divided by 2 is 6. I cannot divide any of those by any other numbers, okay? If I divided 10 by 3, I'd have a remainder. If I divided 12 by 5, I'd have a remainder. So both of these I can divide by 2 and not get a remainder. So that's going to be my final answer. Okay? So let's go ahead and try these other 2 fractions down here. So I have 1/2 divided by 1/4. So the first thing I'm going to do is keep. I'm going to keep the 1/2 the same. And I'm going to rewrite it. And I'm going to change the division sign to a multiplication sign. Then I'm going to flip. This 1/4 is now going to be 4/1. Okay? Now I just multiply. So 1 times 4 is 4. 2 times 1 is 2. And look what I have, an improper fraction, where my numerator is bigger than my denominator. So I'm going to have to divide. So I'm going to take the 4 divided by 2, and that of course is 2. So my final answer is a whole number of 2. So if I take a half divided by 1/4, my answer is 2. Let's look at this last problem. So we have 3/4 divided by 2/5. So the first thing I'm going to do is keep the 3/4 the same, change the division sign to a multiplication, flip, and find the reciprocal of 2/5. So I'm going to flip those. So my 5 goes on top and my 2 goes on the bottom. And now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to multiply. So 3 times 5 is 15. 4 times 2 is 8. And again, I have an improper fraction. So I have to put the 15 here, divided by 8. And I notice my remainder is 7, so that's going to become my numerator, and the 8 is going to become my denominator. So if I have 3/4 divided by 2/5, my final answer is 1 7/8. Okay? Be sure to go back through and watch the video for the steps if needed, and then go ahead and try these last 3 problems. You'll also notice on your drive there are 2 videos down here. One is an instructional video about keep, change, flip, and the other is kind of a cute little song rap about keep, change, flip if you'd like to watch that once you're finished with these 3 problems. Cut it off, glue it into your notes, and then we are going to score this. And then also we're going to talk about, if you look at this, well, why does this work? Why can't I take a division of fractions and multiply them by the reciprocal? Why does that work? So we're going to be talking about that and using some manipulatives to kind of figure that out. Okay?